Ada Calvo with pure intention, family man.
Up today and welcome to this episode of the AC Exchange. I'm Tony Ada, and with me is my running mate, EJ Calvo.
Half a day, everyone.
Up today, we have the Guam Women's Chamber Forum that's coming up. They have some lightning round questions that are yes or no, and we wanted to use tonight's episode to expand on those questions just a little bit because we're not sure if we're going to have that opportunity at the forum as to why we said yes or no.
Or maybe.
Yeah, because there are a couple of questions here that
maybe.
were a maybe. Well, we're just going to go ahead and get started.
All right,
and
I'll start by asking the first question.
Sure.
Do you support disclosing political action committee funding, ensuring independence in decision-making?
Yes. Currently, when individuals or companies donate to our campaign, we have to disclose where it came from. So political action committees perhaps should disclose where that funding came from as
transparency.
well. In transparency. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Next question. Do you support requiring cabinet-level agency heads to hold a college degree?
No. There are some agencies that require degrees and others that don't. And we want to balance, right? So I think that individuals that don't have college degree have that life experience, have work experience that make up for not having a degree. So, they're just as qualified as those with degrees.
And not only that, I think it's very important that in our administration, we're recruiting the best talent. And it's the most qualified with or without a college degree. Qualifications could be that work experience and that life experience that they'll be bringing to the table. So
yes.
I think that's the most important thing.
Yes. Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Do you support pursuing federal policy changes or legislation to remove barriers that prevent Guam residents from qualifying for the Supplemental Security Income?
Yes, I do support legislative changes or reform that remove any barriers for Guam residents to receive benefits. And my understanding is the nearby in the CNMI residents already qualify for the SSI. So I don't see there's a reason why we can't also fight for legislation to allow Guam residents as well.
And these are going to be it's going to be an issue that we work with our representative to DC to include Guam in the SSI.
Yes.
Let me ask you again. Do you support simplifying access to federal grants for Guam businesses?
Yes, 100%. We need to simplify, streamline, do whatever we can to increase the amount of federal grants available to Guam businesses, Guam nonprofits, and individuals that will support our economy and support the community overall. I think this is something that I'm very excited to work on and see grow and not only get approval for federal grants, but ensure that our organizations have the capability to implement the grants and spend the money the right way.
And report it correctly.
Correct.
Yes.
I'm going to ask the next one. Do you support policies ensuring local businesses and workers receive a fair share of federal investments tied to military spending?
Yes, I agree, because this military buildup is only going to last for so long, and we want to make sure that our local companies and individuals have that opportunity to get whatever funding they can. Let's be fair. They're going to bid on a project. Let's not exclude our local companies from bidding on those projects. A lot of times we have these companies from outside that become the prime contractor. And what do? They turn around and they subcontract to the locals, and all they do is push paper while the local companies are the ones that are carrying the burden of that contract, because they're the ones that have the workforce. They're the ones that have the equipment, the skills that are here already, and these contractors don't have to bring them from the States. Yeah. So, I think that, we need to ensure that our local businesses and people receive their fair share.
Agreed.
Let me ask you this one. Do you support changes to the Jones Act to reduce the cost of goods on Guam?
I'm going to say yes. I would support changes if they help us to accomplish a very important initiative in our platform, and a very important aspect of what needs to happen on Guam is the reduction of cost of living. The cost of goods, whether food, construction material, fuel, if there's any way to reduce the cost of importing and making logistics more efficient, that will benefit the island, then we should support those changes.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Do you support increasing funding for mental health and addiction treatment as part of Guam's public safety reforms?
We spoke about this recently as well, and I'm going to say yes. The war on drugs is going to be something very important to our administration, and it's going to be fought on several fronts, not only on enforcement and on the border, but also in terms of providing pathways to recovery and more mental health treatment opportunities for people who suffer from addiction and are looking to turn their lives around and get through this. So that's really important that we have equal, if not greater, investment on helping those that suffer.
All right.
I'm going to ask the next one. Do you support reforming Guam's juvenile justice system to emphasize rehabilitation and reduce unnecessary confinement?
Yes, I do. I was the director for Department of Youth Affairs back in the day.
Yes, you were.
And, my mission there was to ensure that our youth offenders don't become adult criminals. And I think that confinement should always be the last resort. I couldn't understand why we had 11-year-olds at Department of Youth Affairs. If there's a way to divert them from coming to DYA and instead stay at school and be in study hall. I mean, if things are able to be addressed outside of the department, then, let's try to do that. I mean, for serious things, absolutely. But I think that we need to ensure that our kids are reformed and not treated as youth criminals.
Yeah, they get the opportunity to really redirect their lives in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Do you support policies to improve accountability and professionalism across Guam's public safety agencies?
Yeah,
it's a pretty easy yes.
That's very yes, but I think policies to improve accountability and professionalism across government of Guam.
Across the entire government.
Yes, because, our everyone should always be held accountable, and everyone should always be professional in the jobs that they do for our people.
Yeah, maintain a professional workforce will produce some good results.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Okay, next question. Do you support continuing the Manilao Hospital project that the current administration began?
Now, this is one of those questions. Remember, we're talking about yes, no. This one's perhaps maybe a maybe.
Depends on a lot of factors.
Yes, because we're not sure where this administration will end up in the process.
Yes.
There's 6 months left, 7 months left to this administration. How far are they going to get in 7 months? What are they looking at? Are they still looking at a medical complex, or are they looking at a hospital only? Are they going to prioritize on a hospital? What is the layout of the land?
How much is it going to cost?
What's the cost factors there? So, there's just so many things that are unanswered at this point. So, we just, this is a no.
I'm going to say no as well.
Yeah.
Now, do you support proceeding with the Simon Sanchez replacement project despite procurement delays?
Again, this is going to be a no, because the procurement delays are there for a reason. We don't want to circumvent the procurement process. We need to make sure that they set a cap. Is the bid within that cap? Is the scope of work that was already submitted going to be part of, the completed process, the completed project, without sacrificing classrooms or anything of that sort? So,
it's got to be done right.
Exactly. From the get-go.
But the bottom line is we're going to get it done.
We're going to get it done. Yes. So I'll ask you the next question.
Okay, shoot.
Do you believe religion should have any bearing on what is taught in public schools?
I'm going to say yes. And I just believe that, growing up in Guam, religion is just part of the fabric of our community and it should have a bearing. I think this question is one of those that could really be left up to interpretation in terms of how much and what aspects of religion are taught in public schools. But I feel like there should be some aspects. So I'm going to say yes.
I mean, when I was growing up in elementary, we used to have the Belen, we used to have Santa Claus coming around to the school, Frosty the Snowman. So it was just part of the environment, right? Because that's what we learned at home. We went to church, and it became part of the society, right? The fabric of society that it was integrated with us.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Do you believe LGBTQIA plus people should have equal rights, including marriage?
I do believe that there should be equal rights. And in fact, on the island of Guam, same-sex marriage is legal and those rights exist. And I think it's something that we uphold.
And I think that, Guam is so different from the United States.
Very different. Especially in this regard.
We're so intertwined with each other here. And our families always mean the world to us.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
We always keep, everyone should be treated equally.
Yes. Two more questions that I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Do you believe improving Guam's public transportation system should be a top priority for your administration?
Say yes, and it will be one of those top priorities. I think that once we get, we kind of find out how I think Hawaii does it. The students and public utilizes the same busing system throughout, right? And I think here is something that we can think out of the box, right? Perhaps if you're coming from Malesu and you hop on a school bus, and that school bus can take you up to Haget and drop you off at a pickup point that Guam Mass Transit can connect to, and then they take you the rest of the way. So, we got to think outside the box of how we can make our transportation system here work more effectively and efficiently.
Well, it definitely needs to change and get better than what it's been.
Yeah, because we're operating two systems currently.
Yes.
And that's the school bus system and the mass transit system. But the school bus system knows all the inner roads and the main highways and everything. So we got to try and see how we can take that format and put it into the mass transit.
Modernize and improve.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, last question. Have you ever had to stretch your budget to pay for enough gas to get to work the next day?
Not just gas, but food as well. As a private in the Army, I only made about $800 a month. That's base pay. Separate rats about 150, and then BAQ, which is a basic allowance for quarters. So maybe about $1,200 a month is what I had to live on. I had 2 kids, married, staying off post, so it was not cheap. We had to learn really quick how to make our dollars last.
Yeah. I think the essence of this question is really what people of Guam and many people are struggling with today in terms of making tough decisions between gas, food for your family, roof over their head, and of course, child care, education. There's a lot that impact families in terms of the cost of living on Guam. It just keeps going up, and it's something that we are preparing to tackle and improve for people, especially those lower income that have to make these tough decisions. And I think with the growing economy, if we can get the economy healthy again and provide more opportunities, and at the same time work with, in several different ways. There's a variety of ways where we can impact the cost of living, starting with housing. And we've talked a lot about that in the past.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So these were just some of the questions that 15 of them that the Guam Women's Chamber will be asking, all 5 teams. So
I guess we'll say yes or no, but I'm glad we got to dive a little bit deeper into them in this podcast.
Yeah. And it gave us the opportunity to, our people. And that's what this is what it's about, right? It's being transparent. It's being, open. We're here. We want to make sure that everyone hears what our messages are, and we do it with our regular podcasts. We have
the platform. We've done some press
platform.
conferences, and we put as much everything's online on social media, and I think it's great where everyone's aware, and if there's a question you want to know, you can actually go someplace to find it. It's not we're not going to leave anyone in the dark.
Yeah. But we'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was. And we'll see you on our next episode of the AC Exchange.
Thank you.
Thank you.